Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mad LiberTEA Party. Thank you for joining us again. With me, as always, we have the beautiful and wonderful Mike, and then, of course, you have myself, Paxton, the best one out of the entire Mad LiberTEA Party, since Mike isn't here to currently argue with that. And very fortunately today, we have a guest that I've wanted to have on the show for a very long time. I know we talked about this a really, really long time ago when Mike and I were really just getting started, and unfortunately, we just never got to that step until today. But with us today, we have the Clean Libertarian. And what would you prefer to go by?
That's fine. Clean Libertarian. Drew. Drew's fine too.
Okay.
We can do that.
Fantastic. So, I mean, let's just start this out really simple. Why don't you, tell us how you got here in the first place? Like, what got you? Let's start with the, your coming to liberty moment. That's usually what we like to start with.
Okay. So kind of how it was for me is throughout my whole life I've always been like really anti-authoritarian. It's just the stance that I've always taken. Fuck cops, and just through experiences growing up in a small rural town and seeing like how cops behaved, I kind of had this disdain for authority figures. And so it took me a really long time to learn that libertarianism was a thing and that it's actually something I aligned with,
Right.
I tended to fall prey to certain political campaigns, that were all hip and cool and appealed to that younger minority or demographic. And it wasn't just for full disclosure, in 2016 I was like kind of feeling Bernie. I was digging Bernie Sanders a little bit, not because of the free shit for everybody, but because it was like, this dude's different, right? He's pissing everybody off, and I like it when people piss off authority figures. Mm-hmm. And then he knelt down and kissed the ring on national television, and I was like, what the fuck is this, man? And kind of got really disenfranchised, and a friend turned me on to, hey, there's this guy Gary Johnson and he's running. And that's when I kind of started to look at libertarianism and trying to figure it out. And who was it? Liberty Weekly Podcast and Dave Smith's podcast and Tom Woods. Those three right there I started listening to. So it really wasn't LP National that brought me in. It was the people who were doing podcasts like what we do now, and just talking about liberty. And there I was. I'm off and running, and here we are today. So that's kind of it.
Stuff. I mean, that's actually an interesting story because not a lot of people have that type of story. Like the vast majority of people we talk to are like, former conservatives and stuff like that. And here you are, almost a former. Well, I mean, did you consider yourself a Bernie bro or?
I gave like $15 to his campaign one time. And so to that extent that maybe, but yeah, I can never get on that whole free shit for everybody thing.
Right.
It didn't pan out in my mind. I'm like calculating like, wait, hold on. We're already in debt. How can we do this?
But man, that's the biggest thing for me is I just don't understand how people can like think that will work. Like you do realize like, this is a politician, a lifetime politician, no matter how you want to look at it. And you guys are complaining about lifetime politicians with corruption and how they make all these false promises and don't ever get anything done. And this guy comes along and says, hey, I'm going to give you everything for free. And you guys don't think this is a scam? That's a snake oil salesman if I've ever heard of one.
100%. I'm really grateful that he, knelt down and pledged fealty to Hillary Clinton, because if he hadn't, who knows where I'd be today, if he would have been principled in that moment in 2016 at the DNC convention, like we may not be talking right now. So I'm glad it shook out the way it did.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I still talk to socialists.
There you go.
So that being said, I mean, do you want to tell us about like your overall journey, the little bit about who you are as a person, not just your political philosophy?
Yeah, absolutely. So like for me, my clean libertarian, that doesn't mean like I shower a lot. That means that I'm in recovery and I'm clean from narcotics. I'm a drug addict.
Do you shower a lot?
I do. Okay.
I
prefer a shower over a bath. It's less time. It's quick, we're in and out. But, no, so pretty much, man, I was always that kid growing up that could never quite fit in where he stood. Like I tried everything that I could to find my spot in this world. And it wasn't until I got about 18 and started dabbling in drugs that I found out that, oh shit, I can take something outside of me to change how I feel inside. And people like me, we don't understand that little word called moderation. So I tend to take that shit to an extreme level, you know? I struggle with drug addiction, man. It's just the way that it was for me for many, many years. And, went in and out of rehab, went in and out of detox, trying to find help, just, you know, fucking around, and finally ran across some people at the right time who were able to tell me some things to help me stay clean. And that was in a 12-step fellowship meeting. And, you know, that has kind of been my people, you know, overall. They became my new family. And really, because, man, here's the deal. Like, I had messed around for so long, I didn't know shit about anything. I didn't know how to open a bank account. I didn't know how to pay taxes. I didn't know how to pay my rent on time. None of that. So these people like taught me everything that I just never learned because I was too busy partying. And, you know, from there, I kind of, the two worlds of my recovery and political philosophy started to kind of mesh whenever I did, like I was saying, and started looking into the podcast. And I started seeing a lot of people and the libertarian Facebook pages talking about, okay, well, if we legalize drugs, what happens to the drug addicts? And I saw more than a few people say, oh, well, you know, Darwinism. You know, and that just really disheartened me. It made me feel like less than, like my life wasn't worth enough that you could maybe give a little bit more thought to your answer. So instead of like taking them to task on it, I just started to I made a little blog post. I used to have a web page up called The Clean Libertarian. And I actually, like last year, man, I had 7.5 years clean, and I got married and we went to Cozumel and I relapsed. I got drunk and it kind of took me on. Yeah. It took me on a little bit of a journey there. It took me about 5 months to come back. Here's the deal. So like, I'm sorry if I'm like railroading y'all's episode here with this shit,
this is great.
But, so like, and the 12-step recovery community, it's kind of an implied thing. And maybe I just picked it up on my own. It's certainly not written anywhere, but I had it in my head that the 12 steps are the only thing that I could utilize to fix everything in my life. Right. So like psychiatrists and psychologists and medication and things like that was, in my mind at the time, black magic. Like I don't need to be participating in that. And as a result, like there was some really bad mental health shit going on in my head and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I needed a release. And that's exactly what happened. Right place, wrong time type of thing for me. And, you know, so I came back, I went through rehab back in January. I've been clean since January 8th of this year. So I'm back on the wagon and doing the thing again. And instead of doing the blog post, I'm doing the podcast. And so my goal in the present sense is to offer a libertarian perspective on ending the drug war with the added caveat of being involved in the recovery community. There's a lot of people
kind of unique. I haven't seen a lot of that out there.
I haven't either, you know, and here's the other thing, like regardless of political philosophy, a lot of people who go to meetings will say shit like kill your local heroin dealer. And, you know, they had this like mentality that the drug war is somehow going to start working. And it's like, dude, you were there. Like you went to jail. That shit didn't fix you. This meeting fixed you, you know? It's pretty obvious to everybody else, especially here in Oklahoma, that the state has no solution. The state will literally force you to go to these 12-step meetings because they're saying, we don't know what the fuck to do with you besides charge you. You know,
the state of Texas forced me to go to a 12-step meeting for marijuana.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and
see,
like I didn't really feel like I needed it then, but I sat through it and did the shit because I didn't really have much of a choice. Came in handy, actually, though. Like, strangely enough, the 12 steps are really useful for like personal growth outside of addiction, especially when trying to battle mental illness is involved. Um, there's a lot of parallels I saw. Like, my dad went through the 12-step program. He was addicted to methadone. Um,
That's a hell of a thing. Hell
yeah,
of a thing.
he ended up with like a bucket of those 20, what are they, 24 hours?
24-hour coins. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like basically, but like by the end of it, he ended up getting really clean and everything like that. But like being forced to go through that and stuff, it kind of like helped us bond a little bit
Right on.
and stuff like that. I think that people who are not dealing with addiction should look into the 12 steps. So do you think so too? That would be like something.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole premise of the 12 steps, it's not like anything beyond learning how to be a compassionate person who is accountable and living the life of personal responsibility. It's about no longer blaming everybody else around you for what the fuck you've done wrong. And it's about actually taking control of your own life. How that can't benefit everybody, I don't know. Like it absolutely does. And that's why you see a lot of special interest groups that revolve around the 12 steps. I mean, it's not just for people who struggle with addiction or, alcoholism. Like there's a lot of different variants of the same thing. And you even have churches picking it up, like Celebrate Recovery is a thing now. And that's literally a religious version of the 12-step program, which oddly enough came from a very religious upbringing. Like the 12 steps were derived from like people practicing 17th century Christianity,
Were they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Bill W. and, those original guys in AA got the 12 steps. They were called the absolutes. Like, I'm going to sound like an idiot here, but the history of it is the 12 steps were actually like 8, and they were in a strictly religious affiliation at the time. And they just kind of co-opted them to be geared towards alcoholism. And from there, it's been adopted and used for drug addiction, overeating, sex addicts, families of alcoholics and addicts, and Al-Anon, you see that. I mean, people that have never touched a substance in their life are utilizing the 12 steps to kind of learn how to live a better life.
I forgot about Al-Anon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people kind of forget about them. It's kind of sad that they do, though, because like they need that support too.
Mm-hmm. They do. And that's the thing. Like, I've dated some women in the past, and they would go to Al-Anon thinking they're going to learn how to fix me, but they actually learn how to fix themselves, and it pissed them off. They're like, what the fuck, but, yeah, it's all about self-improvement. Right. And so, to just kind of nutshell the question you asked. Yeah. I see everybody, being able to benefit from something like that.
Are you religious?
I dabble, right? Like I consider myself to be Christian, but I'm not like hardcore with it. Yeah, I don't really know how to say that. Like, if I had to nail it down, I would say I'm a Christian, but practicing, I look more at the spiritual aspect than I do the dogmatic religious.
I'm much more of a spiritualist. I'm not really into the church myself. It's too structured,
Yes. Yeah.
My grandfather was a Pentecostal pastor, but
Oh God.
like I just didn't quite go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're a little off kilter there.
I'm all like till Valhalla, and he's like, "Aw, this is gonna be awkward when we're all dead." But
I mean,
I've always been like super independent, and like when I was younger, I had a really hard relationship with all the gods. I did not really want any of them in my life. So when I came to the step about having no power in my life and needing a higher power, like I fucking like stumbled really hard and couldn't fucking really I literally ended up having to just fake that step. I'm not gonna lie. I just faked it.
I mean, that's what the majority
fake it
of
till you
people
make
do.
it, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that something we say?
100%. I don't think, and here's the other thing too, is that like if you stumble into the rooms of a 12-step meeting, especially in this part of the country, there's a good chance that you were forced to go to church a lot as a child, and so you have a fucked up understanding of what a power greater than yourself consists of.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I came into recovery that somebody said that I could make a classified wanted ad for my very own higher power. And I'm like, dude, that is fucking blasphemous. What are you talking about? And you know, they had to explain to me that there's only 3 things that this thing needed to consist of, and that is that it's loving and it's caring and it's greater than yourself. That's it. You know, and so for me, like I was straight up atheist when I came in, did not believe in nothing. And I used the group, you know, the people who were staying clean. That was my higher power. And
your
like
support network.
Yeah. And my prayer was whenever I was, you know, sitting at the table crying about whatever the fuck was going on in my day, you know, in a meeting. And so it worked for me at the time. Right.
Yeah. And like in those times, anything that works is what you need at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
I kind of wish that like I'd have met you back then, because like from that point till like, oh, I don't know, a few weeks ago maybe, when I actually heard you say it, I'd never fucking heard anybody say that before. And it just fucking slapped me in the face, because like I've always battled with how to fucking talk about that part of the 12-step program. I literally, when I'm trying to talk to other people about it, I just skip it too. I'm like, you don't need that. I didn't need it. I didn't realize that I did what you said to do, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was like just stuffing something in the way that would take the place of the God and help me. But like I thought it was cheating. Literally, I thought I cheated. I was like, no, this is an 11-step program.
I mean, here's the thing. A lot of us come in and we'll pick a couple of those steps and like, okay, those are the ones that are going to work, and we'll discard the others. But I had 2 very influential people for me in my recovery that kind of helped me lean more towards the idea of a higher power and a spiritual entity. And one of them was a guy, and I was like, so I had all the newcomers crisis, right? Like he was like, what's your problem? I had like a week clean at the time. I said, man, I'm out of cigarettes and I don't have a girlfriend and I don't have a cell phone. And he's like, dude, shut up. You know, he's like, just come over to my house and we'll talk. And, you know, he knew I was full of shit. But he said, you know, what do you think about God? And I gave him this big long rant about like, oh, I don't believe, you know, science and all this and that, whatever the fuck I was saying at the time. And he said, I'm going to stop you there. And he went in the kitchen and came back, and he had this Folgers coffee can. And he said, that's going to be your God. And I just looked at him like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. Like, that's a coffee can. Like, what are you talking about? And he said, for the next week, what I want you to do is whenever you have a problem, any problem, it doesn't matter what it is, I want you to write it down on a piece of paper and I want you to put it in this can. And so I did that. And after a week, you know, we pulled this can out and we started going through it. And while every problem that I have had and put in that can wasn't solved, there was at least a solution that I could now see. So it was less to do with me like believing that a power, that a one single entity God existed. And it was more about, okay, everything's going to be okay. Right? Like whatever the fuck is keeping me clean, it's probably going to help me navigate through these problems so long as I keep doing the next right thing. So that was one guy. And then later on, I had a buddy of mine. He knew I'd been struggling with this God concept, even after the Folgers coffee can thing. And he said, Drew, the same thing that sends blood through your veins is the same thing that sends water through the rivers. And he wasn't talking in a literal sense. Obviously, there's different forces of nature that causes that. It's just the concept that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. The birds that you hear chirping outside are going to eat. Everything's going to be okay. Believe in the order of the universe. And it was just profound to me at the time, right? And that's kind of I don't know. I guess with anything else in our lives, like we baby step into those parts of our lives that shape and mold us. And for me, that spiritual aspect was 100% part of that.
Oh man, like it just blows me away that nobody else has ever fucking come up with that.
You're still on that, Jesus, Mike.
I'm still stuck on it. No, you don't understand, dude. For years, I've toiled on this, and I just couldn't fucking come around with it for some reason. Now I feel dumb. I'm like, this is so simple.
I mean, it's just one of those things, man. It was just right place, right time for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, folks like us, folks like us, we just sit around and talk about it and think about it so much that eventually somebody's going to have something brilliant to say.
Oh, that's really sad.
So yeah, I mean, let's jump into the politics of this. So, just for reference, and I bring this up in like every other episode, the thing that brought me to liberty, like I remember the exact moment. Ron Paul was on the Republican debate. He was asked the question about weed legalization. He was like, "No, we should legalize everything," and everybody booed him. And he just asked the simple question: if heroin or whatever it was, heroin was legalized tomorrow, how many of you cocaine? If cocaine was legalized tomorrow, how many of you are going to start doing cocaine? And nobody raised their hand, obviously.
Right.
But a lot of the arguments against libertarianism philosophy of legalizing everything is that this kind of instance will happen, that if you legalize everything, there's going to be people out there that are going to be overdosing on heroin, and there's going to be people littered in the streets, and they're all going to be dying from all these overdoses and stuff. Granted, that's already happening now with legal drugs, and people are abusing the crap out of those. We have a opioid epidemic. Tulsa is actually one of the main places.
There was a time period when they were like advertising opiates on teddy bears and shit.
It's just like cigarettes. I mean, any place that can have something that's addicting is going to try to take advantage of that. But what do you say in your position about that type of thing? Like, how do you argue against that?
Yeah. So the cool thing about history is that it tends to repeat itself. And the cool thing about America is that we've actually had a period where we had a during, and a post prohibition on a specific substance. And we all know that's alcohol. And so I point to alcohol as one of the leading data points that we can look at and really understand what our culture would embrace and wouldn't embrace. And so back in the late 1800s, the average alcohol consumption was 7 gallons per capita per year.
Oh my God.
That is the booziest ever on record.
A lot of booze.
It's a ton. Furthermore, it's if you're listening to this and you look up that data and look why people were consuming so much at the time, government fuckery is what it was. And more or less there was a embargo on exportation of alcohol products out of America. So we just had a whole bunch of booze. We started to drink it instead of throw it out. But so 7 gallons of alcohol per year per consumer. Okay. Fast forward to 1920. And this is around the time Prohibition started. We were already down to only 1.96 gallons per capita.
Good Lord. Yes.
So already, without anything being made illegal, we went from 7 gallons a year down to practically 2. The Prohibition only lasted a handful of years. And whenever it was done, we were hovering about 1.3 gallons. Okay. So 15-year change made it from 1.96 to 1.3. And then from when Prohibition ended to today, we're only at about 2.5 gallons of alcohol. So what can we derive from this? Well, it tells us that the legality of a substance is not able to thwart addiction in one way or another. People are going to do what's good for themselves. And just because we legalize black tar heroin tomorrow does not mean that your neighbors are going to run out and grab a needle and juice up. And that's kind of the thing that we need to really open people's eyes to. Another thing that I point to is, so our culture has changed dramatically in the last 20 years in regards to secondhand smoke, and particularly in regards to pregnant women who smoke. So much so to the extent that you don't even see laws really against pregnant women smoking. It's just kind of something they picked up on their own. They are doing what is best for themselves. They know that, okay, if I smoke cigarettes, especially during pregnancy, or drink during pregnancy, there's a good chance that I'm going to harm my baby. And so they don't do it, right? They do that on their own. And so
and it's become kind of a societal thing too. Like if
100%.
someone sees a pregnant lady smoking, they're going to be like, lady, what the fuck is
wrong? The fuck are you doing? Exactly.
I think the seatbelt argument is a good example of that as well. I actually saw that on Twitter today about, I can't remember who exactly. Oh, it was somebody, Pete Buttigieg. That's who it was. He was talking about mask mandates.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, like, from the like you hear this, a lot of us as libertarians would hear the argument of, oh, then, we shouldn't be wearing seatbelts and stuff like that. And that's
right.
Like, if you do the research and stuff, I mean, a seatbelt can save your life. I think we would wear it regardless, and I think a lot of people would do that regardless. In fact, a lot of the car manufacturers were including that in their vehicles prior to that being a law and a requirement.
I don't want to wear a mask for Corona, for this COVID 1984 crap, because I think it's bullshit, and I want to go out and support the people protesting, but I ain't going to go to a protest without covering my face because there's drones everywhere.
Right.
Like, it's in my best interest, right. Even though, like, it's like everybody around me is actively trying to rebel as a purpose. Like, some people are still not going to fucking do the thing for various reasons. I don't know. I think there's too many, and that kind of reminds me of a thing that happened like a while back in Seattle. They did this group, this nonprofit group got together, and I cannot for the life of me remember what they're called, but they started building these like safe house centers where you could, if you were, like homeless, or you didn't have a place to go do drugs, or you were alone or whatever, you could go there and do your drugs. And they provided clean needles, and they had people who were medically trained on the grounds, and they provided people who were counselors and stuff like that, and they helped people not only not die, because one of the problems is if it's cold and you're doing heroin, you can die real fucking easy. Yeah. And so in Seattle, with their heroin wave of heroin and it being Seattle, people were literally just freezing to death all the goddamn time. And so like they would bring people inside and keep them alive and help them, and people, from what I understand, they were helping people get off of drugs by doing that, by giving them a safe place.
Yeah.
And like I don't understand why we couldn't be doing that everywhere. Well, I mean, if we legalize it, we could do that everywhere. We could have non-profits. This wasn't even a government thing. This was a non-profit thing where people, out of the kindness of their heart and their own personal concern, did this for people. I don't understand why the government, if they really care about what is in our best interest, could like stand between us and that. But I mean, like, what do you think about that? Do you think things like that all over the place would be helpful?
I 100% do. Here's the other thing too, and it's important to kind of mention, especially when talking to somebody who may not align with us on this topic, is that when we argue for a legalization of drugs, we're not arguing for a normalization of drug use, right? Yeah. So like when I'm saying like legalize black tar heroin, I'm not saying, hey, I hope everybody gets on it. No, I'm saying that like that is the best path forward for the market as well as the consumer.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind being able to walk down the street smoking a joint or go to a cafe and get some shroom tea.
Absolutely.
But, like, I mean, there are certain things I would not be interested in normalizing, obviously. Like, I'm not gonna be like, let's normalize mescaline. Like, we'll put it in the coffee.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the nonprofits, like you were saying, like here in Oklahoma, you cannot buy hypodermic needles unless you have a prescription. So you see an increase in AIDS, you see an increase in hepatitis C, you see an increase in all the communicable diseases that come along with sharing needles. And so who is that helping? You know, like
It's fucking awful.
it's
I
insane.
didn't know that you had to have a prescription to get needles somewhere. Like I don't think I've ever lived in a place where you did.
I mean,
And
it's
like that would be a pain in the ass for me because like I have to take HRT. And so like and they don't prescribe my needles to me. They just prescribe the medicine.
yeah, and it's kind of here in Oklahoma, it's broken down in a county by county base, or not county. I think
That
it's a
dirty needle thing has been a problem since the 90s though.
yeah.
Like even earlier, I'm sure, but I wasn't alive. Well, I wasn't aware enough to know anything about it. Like, but I remember people talking about that shit on the news and stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. And here it's on a municipal basis. Like some places you have to show a proof of need. That can be an insulin bottle, which, you know, if you're listening to this and you're in Oklahoma and you're needing clean needles, if you go to Walmart, they sell an over-the-counter insulin. And so you don't need a prescription for that. And as long as you keep that insulin bottle on you around Oklahoma City and around Dell City, I believe in Tulsa, you can present that at a pharmacy and be able to buy clean needles. Do that. Don't fucking share needles. Don't share needles. But that if nonprofits were allowed to operate how they would like to here, especially, you would not be seeing such an influx of people who have hepatitis C or AIDS or whatever the case may be. And, you know, along with that disease for the addict, not only are a lot of these people getting labeled felons right now, but they're also coming out and they're having to get medications for hepatitis C, or anytime they get like, so for me, I used to have it. Like I was able to go through treatments, but like whenever I got my CDL physical done, like I would have to write down like hepatitis C, you know, and it sucks, man. It makes you feel a little bit less than, and that doesn't need to be that way. We don't need to do that, you know? So I think that those nonprofits would help out in that aspect.
Well, on top of that, like once you get out, if you're a felon, that stays with you for so many years and makes it almost like impossible for people to get up off the ground afterwards. Was that was that difficult? Did you like? Did you just say that you were in and you came out?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to jail a lot. I've been in jail a lot. I
heard of people who are like in prison and stuff like that, and they come out and they've got a fucking, you know, they've got a felony on them, and they just end up going right the fuck back or end up homeless. Like, I was a homeless kid all the time, and I'm not gonna lie, half those motherfuckers out there looking out for me were like old homeless drug convicts, because like they couldn't go back to the regular world anymore. It was too difficult for them to fucking get a foot up, and a lot of people don't want to hire them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stigma and it's a label. And for me personally, like I have been passed up for promotions. I have missed out on job opportunities.
Well, they take away people's ability to vote, their ability to protect themselves. They take away inalienable human rights, which means they have created a crime and then they are using that to literally deperson.
Yeah. 100%.
And at times enslave people.
I can't even
don't get me started on the prison system and the slavery that is involved there, but it's slavery. They use people.
Yeah, I can't even volunteer at my daughter's school because I did something 8 years ago. And like in the time since, I have paid off all my fines. I have done everything right that I'm supposed to do. I'm a homeowner now, you know, like there's things that I'm doing today that make me
if I remember correctly, it was a non-violent thing, right?
Yeah.
It was a non-violent thing, and you can't, and it's getting in your way of doing all this shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
prescription fraud. That's what I went down for. So I went to a pharmacy. I just forged a signature. I paid cash money. I wasn't robbing anybody. I was paying money for drugs, and I just didn't have Uncle Sam's permission. And so now I get to wear the term felon until I get a pardon or get it expunged here in another 4 years. Yeah. And that's $3,000 right there. That's the other part of it. It's not just free. It's not
no, you have to pay. You have to pay. It's fucking ridiculous the shit that they put people through.
Mhm.
Like, and I mean, like, if you're rich, you can get away with this stuff. You can just pay for it. You can get good lawyers. You can get off, and then you can pay for it. Maybe do some public community service at the most.
Yeah.
But like, these laws are only for poor people. They're not for rich people, unless everybody hates them right now.
Yeah. I think that like once upon a time, felon actually meant something, right? Like it was a bad thing, but
it
now
still does to a lot of people. But like, it's starting to make people wonder.
I hope so, because I think the majority of people have committed a felony. I'm pretty sure. I mean,
that most normies don't realize that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't think about it. When you think felon, you think violent offender or something. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. They're like, oh, you're a felon. I'm like, who the fuck did you brutalize? Did you rape somebody? Did you murder someone?
Yeah.
Well, like, did you steal someone's car? But a felony is a very broad sweep. It can be all sorts of crap. A lot of really stupid shit that shouldn't be a fucking felony. And because our mindset goes straight to, like the worst of the worst and shit like that with the felony, I don't think most normies even, I mean, I hate to call them that, but like, they just, I just don't think that they realize how out of hand it's gotten.
Yeah.
Like how many people it's fucking touching.
In my most tinfoil hat moments, I think that like, okay, maybe they couldn't pass sweeping gun control. So this is kind of like the next step is just to make everybody a fucking felon. And it makes,
like if you're a felon, you can't have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that is if you consent to being governed. And if you don't consent to being governed, they'll still shoot you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, I don't consent to any of this governance, but if I tell them that one day when they're telling me to fucking put my hands in the air, they're going to fucking shoot my ass.
Right. It's their playground, unfortunately.
They have a monopoly on violence.
Yes,
you don't put your hands in the air.
That's and to me, all of these victimless crimes upon us, to me, that's a form of violence upon us because they're using this to literally, they're using this as an excuse to kidnap us and literally like take our lives away. Yeah. Uproot and flip our whole lives like we're fucking toys.
Yeah.
And they've got the mass majority of people so fucking, I guess, like opiated with their fucking propaganda that they think it's good. Until it touches them. Until they see the truth, because like if your life is touched by somebody who is addicted, or if you've been addicted, you see through that real fucking fast.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone that's come from a normal background, I think the biggest thing, honestly, that's now working in our favor is the war on drugs, because a lot of people are seeing that people are getting felonies for having like, an ounce of weed on them or some shit like that. And a lot of people just do not care about that now. And so the title of felony, I kind of agree with Mike, is going down. Like a lot of people are starting to be okay with hiring felons and stuff like that.
And that's
some people will actually even be like, like they almost like they'll be like, well, I'll hire a felon. That's bullshit, or something like that. Like it's a brag almost,
Yeah, I mean, and everybody loves a good success story. There's a lot of, small-time business. Yeah, small-time business owners who are like, you see him, like I hired him and he's done a great job, or her, despite their background. And there's an influx of those. Mm-hmm. And so like, And if we could, I want to kind of shift towards another aspect of the legalization thing. And that's not just so that we can stop branding so many people as felons, but it's also what we're seeing right now in the United States is an epidemic of drugs being cut with fentanyl. And the reason being is because fentanyl is so much cheaper to buy, produce, and make and an import than heroin or anything else like that. So if you're a consumer and you're buying black tar heroin, there is a very high chance that what you're buying has fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
There's if you take it, you overdose, you want to take your dealer to court, ain't gonna happen. You're gonna go to fucking jail. Even
You
if
can't tell anybody.
no, even the most staunch anarchist knows that contracts will still be a thing in between consumer and retailer, even in a post-government society. Like that's still something that we all hold to be a thing. And so we can all get on board with this concept that kneecapping the consumer in the marketplace is the least productive thing that we can do. I know somebody who died this last week of an overdose. Their family, I don't know the specifics, but on the assumption, which I think I'm right on this, on the assumption that they actually bought some pressed Xanax that were actually laced with fentanyl or whatever pain pill they had, their family cannot seek damages in court. Because I guarantee you what happened was that dealer was like, oh yeah, that's the real deal. That's an actual Xanny bar. And no, it's not a Xanny bar. It's a fucking fentanyl pill. That dealer's going to get off and be able to do it again later on down the road, you know, and it's bullshit, man.
Well, it's not just fentanyl that they're doing that shit with. Like, my fucking mind was blown when I realized the kind of shit that they were cutting the LSD with. Like, holy fuck, don't do any modern LSD. Just don't. Just don't.
Yeah,
just
bad.
fucking don't. Like, there's shit like rat poison in that crap.
Yes.
Like, they will cut that shit with strychnine.
Yes. Yeah. Heroin is actually getting laced with shoe polish or has been getting cut with shoe polish and instant coffee since I've been around.
Instant coffee?
Instant coffee.
Yeah.
Like how the fuck, like that's one of the main things, especially as a normie that has very limited drug experience to begin with. Like the amount of times I've smoked weed, like I can count on one hand.
Yeah.
So just hearing the shit people are putting in drugs and they're like, hey, this needs to go in me like tomorrow.
Yeah.
It just like blows my. What's the instant coffee for?
So like if you take instant coffee and you put a little bit of water on it and it gets that kind of gummy texture to it, that is almost what black tar heroin looks like to a certain degree. So the purpose of putting that inside of black tar heroin from a dealer's perspective is you have so much pure and you put in so much instant coffee, and then now you have this much to sell instead of just this much. Right. And so that's kind of what's happening. There's no quality.
That's basically the whole story of how crack came about.
Yeah, that too.
So someone in our comments, again, the goddess here, brought up the decriminalization versus legalization arguments. So what do you think is the pros and cons of doing both, or doing either rather?
So for me, here's my thing, is that decriminalization will not rid us of the DEA task force, the OBN. You would still have some. So decriminalization will only legalize a certain part of the retail process, either the production, the transportation, the selling, or the consumption. As decriminalization has been known here in the States and elsewhere, that is more or less how it's described. The fully legalized process of manufacturing, transporting, retailing, and consuming is legalization. Here's the apprehensiveness when it comes to the anarchist and libertarians, is that when something is legalized, typically there's regulations placed on it, there's taxes, there's all the bad shit that government does. And my argument to that is that we are not going to, there is nothing that we can produce and trade and sell for money that the government doesn't get their hands in already. So we're cutting our noses off in spite of our face and not allowing the best course of action for the market and the consumer. I really would like to see full-on legalization of every single narcotic substance. And what I mean by that is I want to see every drug law put through a paper shredder. And I don't think that decriminalization would do much to help us in combating drug addiction and having an honest discussion about where that derives from. Yeah, I don't know, man. Portugal's had some pretty good experience or pretty good results, but they've also gotten really socialist with their programs, as far as like, putting people into rehab, and they still go after drug dealers there. Like it's not just an open air drug market, like you can still get popped if you're selling dope. So, yeah, I think legalization would be the better route personally.
I'm not gonna lie. I think we should just put the government in a wood chipper.
Let's start with the pedos first.
There we go.
Which is the
Isn't that the
government,
same
actually.
thing?
Yeah, you right. Yeah, you got me on that
Yeah,
one.
dude. Like, come on.
I'm gonna go no comment. I'm put in for a I put in for a governor's pardon to get my gun rights back. So
Be
yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
You gotta
be
be like,
nice.
hey guys, be nice, and we're like, oh,
You're
we're
good.
sorry. You're right.
You're good. I got no control over you, but for me, there's only certain things I'm gonna say. But yeah, what I would love to see is a minimization of government to the extent that they no longer get involved in our marketplaces. We actually have a free market. 100%. I would love that, but that's not the reality. And so, like, as far as incrementalism goes, man, I would really, really, really like to see people stop dying on spike dope. Like, as a consumer, how great would it be to be able to walk into a CVS, okay, and say, I would like to buy heroin, and have a conversation with the pharmacist about not only the milligram strength of the heroin you're purchasing, but what to expect, how to safely do it.
What to
Right.
do if you overdose.
Right. And that's not
All
going to
that
happen
shit.
with just decriminalization. Decriminalization, you're still going to have the back alley marketplaces.
Or who knows, you'd probably end up with those, like, you have weed shops, you'd have like a heroin store with heroin experts and shit.
Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, how many lives could we save by having those conversations? Because if we've learned anything from human history, it's that we're going to get fucked up. We've been getting fucked up since the dawn of time, and it's going to continue.
Yeah. No, the moment we realized that licking that toad got us fucked up, or eating that mushroom, I don't even know what the first drugs we did were. I think it was probably, what do you think it was?
I'm trying to remember. I actually
we'll go
read
around the
something
table.
about this.
Does anybody know what it is?
I don't know.
Wait. Let's
I would
guess.
imagine it's got to be alcohol, honestly. Alcohol or mushrooms.
Fermented something.
The fermented fruit, yeah, because that's actually a common thing in the wilds now.
You don't think
for
we didn't
animals.
fucking find some mushrooms or some shit?
Oh shit, yeah. That
Well, I mean, if you think of
as cavemen,
just thinking statistically here, like it would be more likely for it to be a fruit, I would think. Because
we got real serious for a second there, and then went straight to tripping balls as cavemen. God damn.
There's more mushrooms that will kill you than there are fruit. So I would imagine
this is true.
I mean,
would imagine that statistically, yeah, like I think mushrooms was very much so a trial and error type of thing. And then eventually we just got lucky with it because, like, you pick the wrong mushroom, you fuck. You pick the wrong fruit, you might get a tummy ache.
Yeah. And I think, isn't there an argument that exists in the scientific community that evolution is loosely attached to, like, humans tripping?
Yeah, actually, like one of the fuck, I can't remember one of the history science papers actually just came out recently talking about how we might like modern civilization to us wanting to get drunk so bad, because one of the very first things that we really learned how to produce with crops is beer. And so I think what the argument is that we didn't start mass producing wheat for bread. We mass produced wheat for beer.
Right
which
on. I'm proud of
which
our
caused
ancestors.
civilizations and so
Look,
on and so
at
on.
the end of the day, we are all just very fancy monkeys.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like Joe Rogan always says. He's got that thing right for sure.
And so that kind of brings us into another little spot too, is that we are on the precipice of having a really solid understanding of chemistry, of understanding like how certain chemicals affect the body.
Mhm.
We are more advanced now in that respect than mankind has ever been. And there's a lot of studies coming out that like MDMA can affect people who have PTSD in a very positive manner.
Yeah,
There's
that's what I'm reading.
yeah, psilocybin mushrooms. Since we're on the topic, those are being used to treat depression. Ketamine out here in Oklahoma. I mean, while that's not like a explicitly banned substance, it's actually starting to be utilized on humans. Infusions to treat severe depression that is chemical or medication resistant. So
Well, I know that the weed helps me with my shit, my anxiety and my PTSD, and sometimes it even helps with the insomnia.
that's awesome. And you couldn't say 10 years ago that you'd be able to, have access to those things to the extent that you do now,
Oh God, no! Like when I was younger, I was like paying $5 to buy a nickel, and like I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna get.
It's some
But
dog shit
like,
weed too. Dog
yeah,
shit
but
weed.
in places where it's legal, because like I travel a lot, so like when I'm in places where it's legal and stuff like that, I can go in there and ask them and about the strains. I can stop and pull up my phone and look into the strains and get reviews and all sorts of shit and get exactly what I fucking like out of what they've got. I can get exactly what the fuck I need
Right on.
to like they'll tell you what this does, what its side effects are, what it fucking tastes and smells like, just everything.
How
uh
badass would it be to have that for everything?
for everything, so that
Everything.
we knew what we were getting, because like I mean, I'm sure that mixing things differently, I haven't done drugs in a long time, like other than weed or shrooms. I don't fucking remember a lot of stuff. I'm like, there's different kinds of stuff. Like,
It,
you'd want to know about it. You'd want to know. I don't really. I mean, I guess some people would find medical uses for for drugs other than the stuff that we already know about. If it was legal, people would probably do medical testing.
I mean, so methamphetamine, you have Adderall, you have Vyvanse, you have
Yeah.
Dexedrine, you have Ritalin. The difference in between the pharmaceutical pills and the methamphetamine is that meth will actually pass the blood-brain barrier and it'll mess with your brain chemistry a little bit more. But beyond that, that's the only differentiation there. MDMA ecstasy was used initially as something to help couples, who were having intimacy problems. LSD was something that therapists use. Bill W., the founder of AA, he actually tripped acid and kept his sobriety date. That's something that not a lot of people know. But like way back when he was around, like that was something that therapists were using, and he was actually looking for his next spiritual experience, and he did acid. So it's kind of like this moving into an understanding that not only are there already real world applications for many of these drugs that have been deemed evil, but there's probably more applications that we don't know of yet because we haven't had an honest discussion as a society, in between society and the medical community, about what possible benefits there could be for this stuff.
I mean, one of the biggest fucking things for me, like, as someone that doesn't even smoke weed that much and really has no interest in it at all, but the fact that we're not utilizing hemp. Like, we can't even fucking do that. Like, are you fucking with me? Like, it's not in, like, one of the guys that we interviewed.
Why are we not using the hemp?
one of the very early on interviews that we did with Keith, one of the largest hemp growers, legal hemp growers in the United States. I think he is the largest grower. In Kansas, that's where it was.
No, Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah. Same. It starts with a K, and they're both very boring places. But anyway,
it's not boring. They have like the Cornbread Mafia story and the Kentucky Derby and Mitch McConnell the Turtle.
Mitch McConnell is there. That's enough to make it boring. I don't care. You could have firework orgies there, and it would still be boring at that point.
Speaking of
God
which, the
damn.
last time I was in Oklahoma, we found a turtle and took a picture of it and put it on the internet and
Oh
called it
yeah,
Mitch.
I forgot about that. That was at the
We're like,
Mosh 2
look,
Ray.
look, Mitch McConnell stopped in to see Maj.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm
Um,
sorry, we got off topic there. I was just
No, you're
thinking
good.
Oklahoma shit. This is a really heavy topic for me. Like, I'm sitting here while we're talking, and I'm just thinking, like, if all of this stuff had been legal and we were capable of getting help, and there were clinics like that and stuff like that, because, like, I had a really sordid history when I was a kid and when I was a young adult, and um, people died around me, people I really fucking cared about. And it makes me think about how many of them, I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry, but like,
it's what
it
you
makes
do.
me think about like how many of them might fucking still be here. Like,
Even my own
how
circle,
many
like church
people
friends.
Yeah.
would I have not had to lose who, like, because even if they'd ended up in that situation, I could have called for help. I wouldn't have had to just sit there or, in some cases, literally run.
Mike, can
Yeah.
you not be so somber all the time?
No, this is like a really serious thing, and like people die from this all the time. Not just, I mean, they just don't fucking have to. I'm
That's
sorry.
no, don't be. It's a very real thing. When you talk about addiction and not just about drugs, like we've all been affected in one way, shape, or form. Like we either know somebody or it's just a widespread thing. And so when we're talking about this, it's real easy. And here's the other reason why this topic always tends to kind of go off the rails if we don't approach it in the right way, is because there's somebody who either their daughter or their son or sister or brother, somebody died very close to them as a result of drug addiction. And they still think that them being illegal is the way to go. And just like a parent whose kid died in a mass shooting at a school has a justified reason for being against guns, in their mind it's justified. I'm not saying that it's the right course of action, but I can understand how somebody could think, why would you want to legalize drugs? Look what happened to my Sarah or my, Ronnie or whoever. And so I think
At
it's really
least until you understand the cycle.
yeah. And for libertarians, it's very important for us to approach this with empathy and with compassion and to not be so goddamn quick to be right, because that's not always the best course of action. We can lose ourselves in trying to be right and forget that we stop being decent, if that makes any kind of sense. And while we have a moral ground to stand on when it comes to legalizing drugs, I think it's important to listen, to have that conversation and approach it a little bit better. And I'm with you, Mike. Like there's a lot of people that I know, I go to meetings regularly. I'm in touch with my sponsor. I got sponsee brothers. I'm a point of contact for a local rehab. So like when guys get out of rehab and they're just now going back home, like they call me and they talk to me and, we kind of help them. And being involved in the recovery community as a default means I'm going to meet people and lose them. They're going to die. There's going to be people I meet and die as a result of overdoses. And it's tragic and it never gets any easier. And it fucking sucks. And yeah, I think about what you just said a lot. Like how many of these people wouldn't be dead if we were able to approach this differently as a society? Instead of trying to put a mental illness on trial, what if we looked at this realistically, right? And I hope that we can give an answer to that someday. I hope that we can be sitting here 20 years from now and say, man, I'm really glad that we changed direction as a
We've come a
society.
long ways. Like, when I was a child, when I was a teen, a young teen, like a preteen, I remember if somebody died of an overdose, like, only the people who were there would know about it because everyone else would come up with some sort of lie to tell the whole fucking town. Like, they wouldn't even talk about it. Like, it was a huge fucking shame and you never fucking heard about it. Maybe the city was different, but like, in small towns and stuff like that, nobody fucking talked about that shit. So
Right.
like, not only was it illegal and horrible, but like nobody knew shit, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of the thing is that like how, and I'll ask y'all this because I've kind of gotten my own understanding and way that I approach it, but like, have you found any kind of successful way to have that conversation with people who are so absolutely closed off to the conversation at hand?
uh, it's to be
About
honest,
legalization specifically.
Yeah.
with me, it's more of a process than a single conversation. Um,
I'm, I mean, on my end, actually, bringing up hemp again usually works a lot. Just that there's, yeah, there's the drug aspects, like the mental stimulation of these drugs that we have, but there's a lot of medical potential that we have in a lot of these drugs, and a lot of just general study that we could be doing because they're just outright refusing study. We didn't know a lot about cannabis for a very, very long time, and European nations were way ahead of us in that regard for a very long time, just because we couldn't even put it in a lab. Besides, I think like one lab, and that was very specific in one particular branch, and it's a whole plant family there. But just bringing up the scientific stuff that we could be doing with it, and the potential production and the jobs that it can create, all that, the economic side of it, the more logical and less emotional side and stuff like that. That's how I usually try to approach things, because a lot of people just can't, you can't really argue with the numbers a lot of the time. You can
Right.
argue back and forth with personal experiences and stuff like that, but whenever you actually start throwing numbers out there and facts, it makes it a little more difficult to just be closed-minded to it.
That's a good point. What about you, Mike?
well, usually when I do get into this conversation, it's with like I've gone his route before, but there's a certain point where you're like, oh shit, when you that moment when you want to snap back and you're like, who fucking hurt you? And then you go, oh wait, oh shit, somebody probably hurt them. All right, so like what, like you want to like I tend to like just slow down with those kinds of people and start like talking about like different things around it and shit because like they're bound to fucking tell you more and more about why they feel that way and stuff like that. I used to kind of be really aggressive with it, but like actually
Yeah,
something
sometimes I have
Dan
to pull on your
Berman
leash.
like Dan Berman keeps saying like something and like it kind of like got through to me at one point and I started chilling out and it actually became better because he's like, you've got to like figure out you got to come from their angle. You have to figure out what they want, what bothers them, why, and work with that. And so like I become more attentive and shit like that to it. But it doesn't really like my method is not super fast. It usually takes several conversations, or one really, really fucking long one. Um, I wish I had one that wasn't so emotionally draining, to be honest. Like, I don't know if that sounds weird, but like, my method makes me very fucking tired and emotional.
But you're taking it a compassionate stance. You're taking it a compassionate approach. And, Paxton, even you are as well, because you're not just like beating them down with the numbers. I would imagine you're actually having that conversation. And how many more people could we touch with not just this topic of legalizing drugs or decriminalizing initially, but how many more people can we turn on to the very basic concepts and precepts of libertarianism and freedom if we were to approach it with compassion and a little bit of civility, right? And so, like, I applaud you on that because, like, that's hard to do. That's very tough to do sometimes because some people get just like that, like screeching, they get so pissed off, the second you start talking about it. But if we can get on that
To,
level with them, we'll be
to be
okay.
honest, that's one of the things about both anarchists across the table, not just ANCAPs or ANCOMs, but like everything, like anarchists and libertarians alike. Um, it like killed my will to fucking debate. Like the idea of debating fucking makes me just annoyed and stuff now.
Yeah.
And I used to do it for fun. Like I used to competition debate, but the way people use debate now. One, first, they use it as like an escape, like they disappear into theory and never have to do the practice. And two, it's every sorry, every conversation becomes about winning, not about the conversation.
That's
And
it.
like there's an image pinned at the top of my Twitter, and it's been there forever, and it's about how we've forgotten how to converse about difficult conversations and shit. And I mean, like, that's the honest to God truth. Like, we will immediately, when we have differing ideas, we square off, size each other up, and start boxing verbally or textually. And like, I will not do it. Like, I will literally force you to have a conversation with me instead. Like, I won't do, and if you won't, then I'll be like, well, I'm sorry, but it appears that like this is not your thing. You're here to argue and stuff like that, and I'm not gonna fucking do that with you because I don't care if you change your mind. I just want to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Honestly, like that's actually had some people like ping me back, like after I leave the conversation and mute it, they'll DM me and we have an actual conversation after that. Because like it just doesn't seem like enough people are like that. Like even the people who are like, I'm not gonna argue with you, they sit there and argue with them about how they're not gonna fucking argue with them. Like if I'm still there after I say I'm not gonna argue with you, I'm posting funny fucking gifs at you every time you post because I think it's funny that you won't go away. But
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah. I think kind of one of those, y'all know who Patton Oswalt is, right?
Hmm.
You know, the comedian, stand-up comedian guy.
I don't know. I'm
He
really
was
bad with
on
names.
King of Queens. He's done a lot of stand-up specials on Netflix in the last few years, but his wife died from a Xanax pill that was laced with fentanyl.
Oh God.
She overdosed.
Jesus.
And so that's kind of one of those stories because while we may not be able to meet in the middle on certain things, I don't know, for whatever reason, there's a celebrity worship culture that we have in this country. And when we can kind of humanize addiction in that manner, like I feel like that's kind of a way in. So like, you know, Mike, you were saying with your approach and Paxton, you were saying with yours, like maybe that's another tool that we can use is kind of like bring up shit like that. And I had to look it up real quick just to make sure I was accurate. And yeah, she died of a mixture of Xanax and fentanyl. And
I
so
really think that actually, if we spent, I don't know if this is something you agree with or not, but I think that the mental health issues in our nation today lead to higher addiction rates because
yeah,
our inability to cope with stuff leads us down some pretty fucking wonky roads. Like,
yeah,
I didn't ever really end up in that whole I'm like addicted to something situation, but I did end up doing a lot of really fucked up shit that almost killed me because I couldn't fucking cope.
yeah. I mean, I was
And
self-medicating. I mean, that's the majority of people, everybody that I've met in the rooms of a 12-step meeting is there because they took an outside substance to fix an internal problem. For whatever reason, they never learned those coping skills to kind of deal with the world around them. Raw, unfiltered reality just wasn't something that was appealing to them. And so, and myself included. And there's such a stigma around mental health still. Like if
yeah,
you say that you have depression, like there's automatically a caricature that comes into somebody's mind.
well, and as I say all the time, like now you've got to be careful who you fucking tell. Like, because
Mhm.
there's red flags all over the place and crazy shit. Like,
Yeah, especially in our community, like you can't just say you
your
have.
own. Oh yeah. No, definitely not. You can't just like go around being like, "Hey, I'm a schizophrenic. I want to
No,
talk about this and help myself through it." No, 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 no. You can't, baby. No, no, no.
right, right, no,
Like you have to get you need a support network, but if you're in the liberty movement, trying to find a support network is like playing a game of fucking Clue.
It really is. I will
You're
tell.
like, you're playing Find the Fed. Which of my family members is most likely to say for your own good, stuff like that, and you want to distance, and you end up having to distance yourself from things and stuff like that, and it gets really hairy out there. I worry about people in the liberty movement right now, especially because, like, I mean, especially with on top of the COVID shit and everything like that. So we're like all super doubly isolated and crap.
It's fucked up. And like, not just the liberty
Suicide
circle.
rates are going up.
Overdose rates are going up, suicide and overdose.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought that locking down addicts in a house and not allowing them to go to face meetings anymore would have an adverse effect? I personally, I hold every politician responsible for those deaths. They're murderers, every single one of them. Every addict who died of an overdose because they weren't able to make it to a meeting, I got a big problem with that. A big problem. There's been a lot of Zoom meetings, but when you're used to having face-to-face interaction with people,
it's not the same.
It's not.
No.
Yeah. The get over it comments. Yeah, those are always fun. Telling somebody with depression to get over it is like telling a homeless person, just go buy a house. There's a lot of shit that goes into it, man. There's a lot more of a complex issue than that,
So statistically, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not. Like statistically, has drug usage become like, is that a growing number?
Yes. With what we saw here recently with the opioid epidemic, or whatever you want to call this, or what we went through, I was seeing an influx of soccer moms in meetings, like wringing their hands, wondering how the fuck they wound up there. Because they would get on, you had doctors prescribing like OxyContin for a sore ankle. My dad got prescribed OxyContin for a fucking migraine. Like, what the hell? And they were billing these pills.
A migraine?
A migraine, no shit.
I mean, migraines are bad, but like
not that bad. I mean, it was an annoyance.
Shit.
Yeah. And so, what you saw was a lot of normal people finding out that they had a problem and they couldn't get away from it. And, that was the influx that we saw there. Now we're starting to see an influx of people have been like getting prescribed Xanax and other type of benzos. And it's really fucked up a lot of people. Anxiety tends to be one of those things that people are going to doctors for. And
I'm really worried about this. This is coming up really soon, and people are still stuck indoors, and people's Christmases are being limited. There are governors who are limiting how many people you can have. Like Newsom, he's fucking insane. Like, you're not even allowed to fucking sing loudly or anything like that. Like, holy shit. They've got people on lockdown. We're coming into the worst time of the fucking year.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified for a lot of the people that I care about right now. Like, I'm not going to lie. And I'm glad that somebody brought that up because it had slipped my mind while we were talking. But yeah, we're staring down the barrel of a different kind of epidemic that's going to be fucking gruesome.
Yeah.
Because every year without all of these fucking problems and shit, we have a spike.
My granddad passed away in January. And so we had the funeral, and literally within weeks after the funeral, then all of the real ramping up of COVID happened here. And so my grandma has been stuck in this house that she used to live in with her now deceased husband with very minimal visitors and in a lockdown state. And I can't imagine what that's got to be like. Like, I just can't.
I saw a news article where these old people had like walked out on protest saying that they'd rather fucking die of COVID than be alone any longer. They wanted to see their fucking family.
Yeah.
I don't know if that, I mean, like, fuck, you can't trust the media anymore. I don't know if that fucking happened or not, but, like, if it did, that's pretty fucked up. Like, and we are at that point. Like, that's where people are at right now. People are seriously having a lot of problems. I have some friends who work in the medical industry, especially, like, in the hospitals and stuff. A lot of them actually work around the emergency rooms and stuff like that. And so, like, what every single one of them is telling me is that, like, they're not getting overwhelmed by COVID. They're getting overwhelmed by, like, suicide and drugs and stuff like that. And they don't, like, it's really upsetting to them because, like, at least 3 of them have told me that, like, the biggest spike is being in kids, like, under the age of, like, fucking 15.
Damn.
Like, some of them have said younger, but the oldest of that of the group that said it was 15 and younger. So, like, we have kids out there fucking trying to kill themselves and shit like that. And I mean, like, people who don't have coping mechanisms, like kids or drug addicts or mental health patients, or, like, just really, really old people who can't really do anything. Like, there's so many people who need this contact and they're depriving us of it.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too, and it doesn't get mentioned a whole lot. So, like, yeah, meetings have been getting shut down, but another form of 12-step recovery is called H&I, and that's hospitals and institutions. And that's like at a rehab or a detox.
Mhm.
Whenever a meeting outside of the facility will actually bring a meeting inside and introduce people to, like, hey, here's who we are. This is where you can find us whenever you leave. And so that way you can start out on the right foot. Well, that's no longer happening. So literally people are going through a 30-day treatment program and then getting
and then they're just leaving, and they don't have that outreach thing that they go into after that. Oh,
right.
man.
Yeah. And so
And that makes
instead
me
of
think about it, because, like, mental health people do that too. Like, they do the group therapy sessions and shit like that after they come out. They're probably not being able to do that either.
No, the rehab that I stay in contact with, like, we can't go up there and visit people anymore. Like, we can't even go up there to celebrate, like, our clean day anniversary. And that was like a big day, like when the alumni from the facility came in and, like, hey, I have this many years now clean. I came through here. That doesn't happen anymore. Instead, people are given a Zoom meeting list and said, hey, I hope you have a cell phone plan, or internet at home. Good luck. And that's it. And it's fucking criminal is what it is. It's criminal, in my opinion.
Well, that's like taking somebody who just had surgery and, like, not even stitching them up, just, like, waking them up, putting their hand over the fucking thing with something to hold it closed and telling them to get out.
Yeah.
Like, that's considered malpractice, and, like, that's considered criminal. But in this case, apparently sending somebody out without what they, without what's necessary. Because, like, I mean, I don't know. Do you feel that addiction is an illness?
So here's where I kind of fracture from the recovery community is, like, they will call it a disease. I call it more of an illness because it's not like an organ. It's a psychological condition. But yeah, I think that there's certain people who have those markers present long before they ever get introduced to a narcotic or whatever it is that they're addicted to. Predisposition to addiction is how I would describe that. So yeah, some of us are kind of born with that thing, like me. Moderation is never going to be a thing. Like, I swear to God, I have gotten enough of those 24-hour coins. I could tile a bathroom. Like, I could make a little remodeling project out of that. And I'm here to tell you, like, I don't have that capability. While there's people who do, there are some people who can sit down and have a beer and be okay. Like you can smoke weed and it's not like a all-encompassing thing that'll fuck your life up. And for me, it would be, because I don't stop. I just continue to, get harder and harder.
It doesn't fucking seem fair sometimes. Like, the people I hung out with, like, at one point I was just like, okay, I'm done with this, and I stopped. But they all fucking were stuck there.
Yeah.
And like, at the time I didn't have the capacity to understand how to fucking help anybody. So like, I couldn't even help myself, basically. I had my own fucking problems, but like, that was just not one of them. And it felt really bad because like a lot of people got stuck back there. And there were a lot of times when I wondered, like, why because like there are people in my family who've dealt with addiction and shit. So, like, it's not, I don't think it's like, who knows? Like, I sit there going, why did it skip me? Why am I not addictive personality or whatever? It's kind of strange that we don't know what causes these things. I mean, but I'm bipolar, so whatever.
I think there's been some pretty compelling scientific studies that link, somebody's childhood and certain atmospheres and situations as being, part of the reason that they tend to form these addictive personalities. And I don't think it's been nailed down enough to where it's like, this is an absolute certainty, but there has been some pretty compelling arguments made along those lines. And I can kind of see it, man. There's some recovery communities that will talk about like, what was your trauma? And they get people to kind of delve into that. Like, what happened when you were a kid that maybe you don't think about anymore? And, let's address that. And in many of those cases, people can address that and see, oh shit, I have been running from that one situation all of my life, and they can attribute many of their bad decisions as just self-medication, like we just got through talking about, but for trauma instead of a ongoing, mental state. So I really wish it was a black and white answer, because God, that'd make it easier for all of us to understand.
Yeah, for sure, I guess. Yeah.
But it's like anything else in life. There's a lot of nuance and complexity to it. And really, when mankind is discussing mental health, we are really in the very infantile stage of talking about the science of the mind.
I don't even trust what we do know, because a lot of our shit that we know about mental health seems to be based on societal norms.
Right.
And so, I mean, like, we don't even know. Call me quirky or whatever, or quacky or whatever, but like, I'm convinced that at least half the shit that we call mental illness is literally just a different fucking way of thinking or perceiving. And even the things that are mental illnesses, like, you can figure out what's going on with you and know how, and learn how to fucking, well, not know, but like learn how to fucking work with it. You can't fucking overcome that shit, but you can work with it. And like, that was one thing that I always felt akin to with addiction that like made really good sense to me, because like dealing with trauma and stuff like that, it's that was one of the overlaps that seemed to play into it. The other one was that I saw that addicts, and I guess like people dealing with trauma and mental illness, have to share is sliding back, like the small failures, and like having to figure out that like that's not, because like at first when you're trying to figure this shit out, and you fail, it feels like the fucking end of the world every fucking time.
Yeah.
And you have to get into stride and realize that like these are not, I mean, like we had an episode about this actually, that like not too long ago, like these are not failures, they're learning experiences, and you just get up and fucking keep doing it. But like, that does not happen over fucking night.
Nah, it takes a lot, man. And here's the other thing too, is that like we're not all built the same. Hey, we're all different. And so like what worked for me to find the spot that I'm at now may not necessarily translate to working for somebody else. Really,
Yeah.
all that we can do is kind of take everybody's combined experiences and just kind of pick and choose what's going to work for us.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, like
It's
for my
anything but an exact science at this point.
100%, man. I mean, how many years ago were we physically lobotomizing people? And then now today we're chemically lobotomizing them. I mean, lithium, that's all that is, man. It's the lithium
Yeah, they
shuffle, you
did
know?
that fucking shit to me because I was, quote, unmanageable.
See? And so
And here you are, an anarchist.
Gee, I fucking wonder why.
but, you know, here in 10 years, we're going to look back on a lot of the current medical practices in regards to mental health. And we're going to think, my God, that was the dark ages. Can you,
Oh, God, yeah. We're going to
you know?
be looking back on it like, you know, the same way we look back on the shit that we used to do and be like, that's just grisly. That's what we're going to be talking about, the shit we do right now, because it is.
So like
seriously, we're using addiction and mental illness to like deperson people all the fucking time.
yeah. And like for me, like my podcast, I found my solution and my recovery in the 12-step community. There's a lot of people who have found freedom from using drugs or alcohol or whatever the case may be that did not go that route. And I'm really
you're not supposed to say that.
I mean, it is
it's true though.
taboo.
It's very true.
Very true. It's a taboo subject. And for me to talk about that with other, you know, friends that are in the 12-step community, it can be a little bit of a volatile subject to approach, but I really want to highlight that. So like, I got a guy coming on here in the next couple of weeks who he used to drink like really, really bad. And now he smokes weed and he has found freedom from alcohol through marijuana. And, you know, that would never work for me, but it's worked for him. So like, man, if we can just start highlighting what's working for people
so that other people can try it, like make a list.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're going to be a lot better off doing that than waiting for some scientist to produce a paper, you know?
Yeah. That makes, I 100% agree.
The state hospital trash.
Will definitely make you. Yeah, I've been to those.
Same.
And here I am, an anarchist. Seriously, I don't care whether I get pulled over for drugs or anything else. I am not going in another fucking box. And the most terrifying words you will ever fucking hear is, "We're doing this for your own good."
Yeah.
It's like the state motto.
Oh God, it fucking makes my toes curl. That is like, you know, those short horror stories that people write? It's the worst one.
You mean erotica?
No, the one-line horror stories. You never seen the one-line horror stories, Paxton?
One-line horror stories? What the fuck?
Yeah. People will start it, they'll be like, give me your best one-line horror story. And sometimes they'll be like 5 words or 6 words or something like that. And people will say a line.
Is this like an Instagram thing or a TikTok?
I mean, they do it on everything.
Why?
Twitter, Facebook, whatever. They're like,
I don't get you.
They're like, give me your one-line horror story. And they're and like, you know, like in this case, the response would be, I'm doing this for your own good. Like, that's a one-line horror story. I can't believe I'm having to explain this to you. You're supposed to be hep, you youngin'.
I like how you said TikTok. TikTok?
The TikTok?
Yeah. You kids and your Facebooks and
Chinese government spy video platform that censors liberty people. Free Hong Kong.
Hey, you remember that time we got kicked off Facebook?
Yeah.
That was a good time.
I've abandoned Facebook. That's a hellhole. No more.
Not missing anything, but I mean, like it. I don't know. This is
I mean, my significant other and I were actually discussing this the other day. To me, social media is like a form of drugs. Like it is a way of, it's a consumption to fill a void.
The dopamine response people get from
Exactly.
the likes and the re-clicks and blah
It's
blah
designed to
blah.
do that. It's designed to make you addicted to it. It's designed to get as much dopamine. It's essentially a gambling machine without any
Well, yeah,
money
it's like
involvement.
gambling or the pornography industry today.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on porn.
I
There
think
are like whole documentaries on how the porn industry utilizes addictive personalities and shit like that.
I think the most nihilistic I've ever like found myself being was when I
Well,
realized what's that?
I said, well, at least the online one.
Oh, but the most nihilistic I've ever found myself being was whenever I realized that I was viewing my life through a series of social media status updates.
Yeah.
Oof.
That was depressing. I was like, oh God, no, that's not what life's supposed to be.
No,
You
no,
know,
I'm 10 times. I mean, because I'm, in that generation where social media is supposed to be life and everything, and one of the first things a young person will ask you is like what your Instagram handle is or your Twitter handle is, whatever fucking social media thing they're using nowadays. I think it's Snapchat is the big one. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
god, it's like we're
Um,
both from the wrong generation. Because I'm
yeah,
all like, here's my QR code, and he's all
I was
like,
like,
what?
the fuck does
fuck is
QR even
that?
stand for? Uh, but yeah, and I just remember feeling, whenever I was younger, I remember feeling just this immense pressure to be on there, and you don't get anything out of it. It's a whole bunch of ego stroking, and it's self importance. Like it just really inflates the ego the entire time. Like it's just all about you, and you're just posting about yourself to the world all the time, and it just kind of creates this expectation that people want to know about just you and what's going on in your life and circle and stuff like that. And that's just not the reality of it. I
No.
think that's why we have such severe reactions on places like Twitter and stuff like that, because it's so
Probably.
much of a bubble now that there's only used to seeing the things that are agreeable to them. And whenever you get a dissenting opinion, they must be like a far right extremist, because that's the thing that you hate. That's the bubbles that you have formed.
Well, that's kind of like my observation. Like, remember when I had been like on the centralized web for a really, really long time and hadn't gone out to the decentralized web for a while, and then like I went out there, and when I got out there, I was like, oh shit, I fucking forgot. There's nothing here to protect me. And then I looked back and went, oh my god, they're all living in this fucking bubble and they don't even know.
Hmm.
Like they don't like they think that the things that they're screaming about are the worst things, but they don't fucking know what the fuck is out there.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
even that is
getting
like they'd fucking lose their goddamn minds out there.
hmm, getting off Facebook and most of the social media things is like the best thing I've done. I mean, Mike's been trying to get me on more and more social medias, because obviously we have this and we're trying to promote it.
Yeah, I'm like,
And
help with the fucking show. Take some
it's
fucking Instagrams.
yeah, it's yeah,
I'm
you
always
really have to
on his
drag me
ass. I'm
there.
like, you gotta take more pictures, man. Take more
That's the last thing I
pictures.
want to do.
Between the podcast and the LP stuff is the only reason I still hang out on Twitter. And
Yeah.
it draws me in, man. I find myself trying to like every little thing I do, making a tweet. It's like, man, no, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to
Yeah,
be
you're
that
you're
guy.
pressured to, though. I mean, that's how the algorithms
Well,
work on there. The more you post on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, the more interactions you're going to get, which is going to get you more followers, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Like we've had substantial growth just by doing daily video posts and stuff like that, compared to every 2-3 videos. Like we've almost
a
doubled
week.
our YouTube numbers in a matter of a week, maybe.
Yeah, but like that's also because the boys are awesome.
Yeah, gotta love the flowers. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the point of it all is that humans are going to find a way of escape. If there is negativity in somebody's life, they're going to find something, whether it's drugs or social media. Like, yeah, I think the whole reason we have addictions to social media, not only are they designed to be addicting, but I think it's because of the legality of drugs, uh, because people can't just the normies, at least the people that actually give a shit about the laws, can't just go to Walmart and pick up heroin like you said to escape. So they have to find something else. People will find something to use to escape. Some people use social media, some people use video games, some people use drugs, some people use, you know, porn, sex, whatever, what have you. I think the worse our civilization gets, the worse that people believe that the world is, the less faith that people have in the system as a whole, the less faith that they have in the general populations and people in general, the more we're going to see addictions across the board. And I think that's really what people, or the scientists, I should say, should be looking at, and moreover, what people should be looking at, because we need to realize that the vast majority of people, if you take all of the addictions and account for that, the vast majority of people think things are shit right now.
Yeah,
Because they
we
are.
all know that there's a problem. Some people just aren't able to put their finger on what the problem is. Even the non political, the apolitical out there that are not up to date on the news, they know things
They
are
know
wrong.
shit's wrong.
It's just a feeling in the air. It might not even be directly affecting their life, but it's just a feeling that we have as a species. We know something is just around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. We find what we love and we let it kill us, man. In one way, shape, or form, or, you know, another. And yeah. And I wonder, it kind of makes you wonder, man, like, we are just now starting to really thoroughly document human history. And I wonder what it was like. I wonder, like, how many people struggled with alcoholism way back when they were still like crushing grapes, you know,
we know people like definitely used sex and booze for sure. And we, like, I mean, drug abuse, it's almost ageless too. I mean, you pick a point in history, you can probably tell people what kind of fucking drugs they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know what the fuck they were smoking back in the day and stuff like that. But like, we always needed a distraction. That's something as humans will always fucking need, I suppose.
Dude, since we were just getting out of the fucking trees, I mean, like we were just talking about earlier, we're like, this fruit makes me feel funny. You know?
I like that.
Like fucking depressed ass chimpanzee was just fucking getting drunk off his ass with this fucking fig or whatever the fuck he found. Like, we will find things. Like, for whatever reason, we like to get outside of our head.
Even non-humans do that. Like, raccoons, they know that the fucking fruits the melons and stuff will ferment in the field, and they'll crack them open and drink them and get drunk and lay in the field.
Dolphins will take a particular fish, I think it's the puffer fish actually, and they will fucking pass it around and get high off this fucking fish.
They pass around this poor puffer fish.
Like, what the fuck?
Okay, first off, dolphins are assholes. Like, they're just dicks. Like, everything they do is fucking asshole.
My dream is to go to a job interview or, you know, some kind of interview and have them ask me what my spirit animal is and tell them it's a dolphin. And them ask me why. Because dolphins will gang rape fish to death. They don't, that is a thing they do. They will pass around a fucking fish and gang rape fish.
What the fuck, man? This is blowing my mind. I've always thought dolphins were cool.
It's just a high IQ thing. No, they are vicious motherfuckers. They're like chimpanzees on coke.
One of the things that dolphins do for fun is bully killer whales and shit. Like, they'll get in a fucking team and they'll just, like, bully them. Also, like, they will capture a female and keep her there and use her for, you know,
obvious things.
Their carnal desires.
Cooking and cleaning.
And they won't let her leave and shit like that. They, like, capture, like, a group of dudes will just capture a girl and be like, okay, you're our bitch now.
That's pretty fucked. Wow.
Yeah,
like
dolphins are
caveman
jerks.
humans.
Dolphins are jerks.
But it just goes to show, you got like a decent IQ.
Yeah.
You got a decent IQ, you're going to find a way to not have that IQ for a few moments. The moment that you have a high enough IQ for self-reflection, it seems like that seems to be the line where you're able to start wanting to not do that anymore. I don't know. It's a curse and a blessing all the same time. But
I
once a
mean, you may be
species
right
does
because
that,
raccoons are pretty fucking smart.
I wonder if crows do it. I need to look into that.
I
Crows are
know the
supposed to be
birds
intelligent.
drink. Yeah, birds will get drunk or they'll eat like the fermented fruit in the fields and stuff too.
Wasn't there a cartoon character that was a crow that would get drunk and stuff?
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
God, it was on Cartoon Network.
I
Yeah,
know it was
the
supposed to.
S's
It
on the
was
side.
designed to be racist, but still, it's kind of relevant
Uh,
to the conversation.
Huh. I don't
now
remember
we're
that one.
banned.
I remember doing a whole fucking research paper on it, but there was like the crow was designed to be like an example of the black community and stuff like that, and that's why he was like lazy and drunk and yada yada yada.
Oh, it's fucked.
See, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that my dad, at least, like my dad and his family and the other people who raised me, I'm not counting my mom's side of the family because they were all fucking racist. Like, I could have turned out to be a racist, but I am just so glad that these other people caught my attention because, like, I grew up not even fucking thinking like that. When
You know
people are
what?
like, that's racist, I'm like, what? Why?
One
I
of
don't
the
even
things that
understand.
bugs the shit out of me is that like being a white guy, like I have a CDL. I do construction. I drive a concrete mixer truck, and it pisses me off that older white guys will automatically assume that I'm racist because they are. And they'll start having a conversation and throw out some sort of slur, not realizing that my daughter's half Hispanic, you know? And
Oh,
yeah, we have that heart to heart real soon after that. Like, no, we're not doing that. But that's one of the things that, like, I don't know why the fuck in 2020 it still happens. And Paxton or Mike, I don't know if y'all have experienced that, but that shit wears me out, man. It still happens. It happened 2 weeks ago on a job site. Just some old guy
um,
started walking up and just talking the dumbest shit you can imagine.
yeah. Um, At least
It's pretty much
I don't
non-existent in my
get direct
generation. Like
racism
honestly,
very much, at least. It's usually just like, but it's usually like older people or really angry MAGA people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
the weird
like
thing is like the
I don't
the
usually.
reverse racism though. Like
Oh
we were
yeah, I
talking about
get
this the other
reverse
day. Like
racism.
the leftists, the extreme left, that are like, I can't be racist. I just don't believe black people are able to take care of their own communities. So of course they need government assistance. Like
Yes.
they
Yeah.
can't, you know, they no, we need to give single black women, mothers, subsidies to take care of their children because obviously they're not going to have a father in their life. So we need to take care of them.
I'm
It's like
like,
the
oh my
weirdest fucking
god,
shit. Like if
it
you
is.
listen to them, it is racism with extra steps, is what it
I
is.
mean, hell, we
It's
saw it
politically
with
correct
Chelsea
racism.
Handler just on Twitter. Was it today or yesterday where she was going after 50 Cent? Like, because 50 Cent said he didn't want to become 20 Cent or whatever the fuck. And he was talking about taxes and supporting Trump. And she said, I had to remind him that he's a black man.
He's a black man.
What
Yeah,
the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you ever say that and think that you have the moral high ground?
Well, I
I
mean,
was
he
Oh,
can't be the
hyping
black
off
man. He's
about
not
that
voting for Joe
earlier.
Biden.
oh, God. We're
I don't
doomed.
understand
They're
that
just,
shit. Like,
but
I don't. At least
the
you
Joe
know, like,
Biden comments alone, though, like just that one comment about you can't be black if you're not voting for me. How does that not end your career and get like a lynching mob after you? I
Yeah.
see,
don't
like, it's
understand.
almost like we've gone backwards. Because, like, when I was
We
a kid,
have
people used to do
100%.
this kind of racist shit all the fucking time, and it was just fine, right?
Yeah.
And then we were like moving forward and being like, it's not okay to be racist. And then we got into this hyper, it's not okay to be racist so hard that everything's fucking racist and now everyone's actually racist. And I don't know how to fucking take it because like there was a period
It's frustrating.
where I didn't get any fucking racism at all towards me. And like now I'm starting to get like what I was about to say earlier was like there was this period where I didn't get any racism anymore except from like extremists basically because they would look at me and be like, well, you're not white. They could tell. Most people can't fucking tell, especially with these big ass fucking sunglasses, and I usually have a mask on. But these people, the super racists, they can fucking tell. And it just didn't happen for so long that when it started happening again, it was fucking shocking because I was like, I thought we were past this, you know. But yeah, lately it's picked up again. Like
It's
it's
overtly
every fucking where.
racist. It's overtly
And
racist. I mean,
it
it's
comes from the
aggressive.
left in that weird passive what do they call it?
It's like,
Microaggression shit.
yeah,
And
it's
it
like
comes
pity
from the right.
racism.
And it's just
Yeah.
coming and it's just coming straight up out the right in some ways.
Yeah.
Like not like your average Republicans not out there saying the N word, but like there are a lot of people and
I'm
like
sure
I'm
those
gonna call it
exist.
out like because like we've got ANCAPs and libertarians and shit who are like, well, I don't like being told I can't fucking say something, so they think it's cool to just go around
There's the
saying
door.
the N word and shit like that. You can fucking miss me with that crap. Like
Yeah.
anytime you say
Oh my
that to
gosh.
be edgy or to say like there's a few
So many
people
people that come into our fucking channels and stuff throughout the the year that we've been working on this that like come in and instantly just start like inward, 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 and then we're like, hey, you're fucking you're the dumbest fucking person that I've seen today, and I've been on Twitter all fucking day, if that tells you anything. And then they get upset that
racism
we're
is
getting
not cash
onto them.
money.
Yeah.
They get upset that we get onto them, and they're like, I thought you said this was a free speech. It is, and I am free speeching all over you, and I think you're dumb. I think this is like
I think you're
there's
fucking
no reason to
stupid.
be racist.
Oh
Your
my
arguments
god, they
completely are
don't
trash. You
like
have
that.
no arguments. And then they're like, well, I'm gonna go to a real, like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. We don't want you here. Like, you're not helping
The
anything.
the thing
Deuces.
is, like, they're used to being banned for it, so they can walk away being like, "Oh, these people are not free speech people." But we don't ban you. We just make you feel like shit. Like flat out. Like I even like everybody thinks I'm a super nice dude. You get that way with me, and I'm a different person. Like you won't recognize me while I'm fucking talking to whoever the fuck I'm talking to. I have a special ability to just rip somebody in pieces verbally, and I will
Nice.
use it. And it makes people lose their fucking minds because they don't know what to do. They're used to people just being like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna just shut it down," and I'm like, "No, no, we don't need to just shut this shit down. We need to like aggress it because like I guarantee you that they learned more from fucking being made to feel like shit. Now, they probably didn't learn anything from what I say. What they learned was that they don't fucking like feeling that way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't expect that much of people, but I do expect a little bit like that hurt, don't do not like that.
Right.
I think we can figure that part out. And like but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm right there with you guys, man. I hope I'm not offending y'all by saying this, but it seems like at least the circles that I'm running around in right now, the biggest problems that I'm seeing from that type is the people who are self-described Hoppians. Like
Oh
that.
yeah.
I don't
I've
know
been going
why.
around yelling about that. I'll say it again. You're not offending me at all because like I just said this the other day and I will say it again. I don't care if that's what hop meant or not. To those of you who actually did like look into hop and stuff like that and aren't pieces of shit. But the majority of these Hoppians are like trendy Hoppians that like fucking memes, and they are literally that fucking like, what is it that meme gif with those fucking stick figures that come in shitting all over the place? Like that's anytime the fucking Hoppians come in.
Yeah.
They are a blight upon the liberty movement, and you motherfuckers out there, you are not minarchist, you're not libertarian at all. You're fucking racist, isolationist, meme masters, and nobody fucking needs you.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be said that, yeah, voluntary relationships are a thing that libertarians espouse and anarchists espouse. Obviously, we hold that as a high priority. You
Yeah.
don't need to take it to the additional steps of saying, I don't like X, Y, and Z, and they should be physically removed from my community. Like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, at what point in time during your day did you have that thought and then say, hey, how do I turn more people off of the liberty movement? And then you just throw that shit out there into the ether. Like, it's so counterproductive.
Oh yeah.
And it's not to say that like everybody who likes hop is a piece of shit, but most of the
That's
pieces
why
of shit I run
saying,
across
yeah,
like
I
hop.
do know a couple of Hoppians that are pretty cool.
I do too.
But they're a minority. That's why I started it out the way I did, because most of them are like, well, those people don't actually know what Hop is talking about, and that's not what he meant, and this and that, and like he was memeing when he did this, and like being ironic and shit. He even says that later and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I fucking know that. Unfortunately, all of your chitlins out there do not fucking know that, and the normies that are having screenshots of them shown about do not fucking know that.
Right.
We have a
that's
fucking huge problem.
Yeah.
That's basically what I was going to hit on, is that it's one thing to be well read on hop and all that stuff, and that's all great and wonderful, and you guys can have your 10-person meeting about that. And,
Your 10-person meeting.
But the vast majority of people that are quote unquote Hoppian are Hoppian because of the meme at this point, like the memes that they see, like, oh yeah, we're libertarian, but we also want to forcefully remove people from things. Like the moment that you say that you're libertarian and force in your own definition, it's not it's none of those things.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. Like I refuse to even read hop or look into them because of the following. Like that's been such a turnoff for me. Like, not that I'm a huge reader anyways, like I like sci-fi and shit, but when it comes to political philosophy, if I do pick up a book, my next one will not be a hop chronicle of any type,
Yeah, no, I've got a whole list of books and stuff like that, and things that I want to watch and listen to, and hop's not really on them. I have looked a little bit into it just because, like, I wanted to know which group of Hoppians was right. Because like if I was like, okay, well, these idiot Hoppians are doing what he says to do, then my friends that are the non-idiot Hoppians are daydreaming.
Right.
Wishful thinking. Call yourself something else. But it turns out that, like, I mean, most of these Hoppians, they're just morons that want to meme and be part of something edgy. Or they're closet racists that don't want to be, or non-closet racists that don't want to fucking be called it. They want to have that leeway to be able to move amongst liberty people and spew their fucking hatred.
Do you want to do the lightning round, Mike?
Oh God. Yeah, I guess so.
We're coming up on 2 hours.
I've enjoyed this conversation a lot, and we kind of got off the well, no, I mean, like, kind of. We got off topic on a ramble, but like
nothing's off topic on our show at this point, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's probably true. We end up getting on these, like, at the ends of these, we do a lightning round where we ask a bunch of questions, but before we hit it, and we're really bad at it too. Like, we try to make it through the lightning round without conversing about it, but we can't.
Right on.
So we always say we're gonna try, but no, I hope nobody's fucking holding their goddamn breath out there. Don't die, y'all. Don't die. And we usually started out by asking you if anything's going on, if you want to plug anything, or tell people about your social media and your where they can find your podcast and stuff. We do have links below for that too.
Okay. Yeah. Besides clicking the links, just check out the podcast. Also, if by some chance you're listening to this and you're curious about recovery, or you're just in a fucked up spot and you need somebody to talk to, my DMs are open, even if we're not following each other. So you can always send me a message, create a sock account. I don't care. As long as I can tell you're not some scam artist or a bot, I will converse with you and we can have that conversation. And your identity and everything else is 100% safe with me. I take that shit very seriously. So that's all I got on that.
Same. You guys, if he's sleeping or something or whatever, you can fucking reach out to one of us. We'll talk and not. I mean, we'll talk, but I'll never talk.
10-4.
Do you
So,
want to
yeah.
ask the first question?
Mike, why do you do this every time? Why? Every time.
I make you ask the first one. I can ask the first one. It's fine.
So,
It's fine.
what is your favorite healthy snack?
Shit. Oh God. Pistachios, is that healthy?
Yeah, those are
think
pretty
so.
healthy, especially.
Okay.
I mean, like they can be
All the
fatty, but
muscles you
they're
have to work
still
out
healthy.
with opening them up and everything.
Cracking them
I
bastards
love
open.
pistachios. Those are so good.
There we go.
In moderation, they're fine. Let's see. What's your favorite recreational activity?
Fishing.
Fishing.
I
like
love fishing.
I need to get out fishing again soon. I really like that.
Next time you're in town, holler at me. We'll go throw a line in the water.
Bro, yes. Liberty
yeah.
fishing trip.
Yes.
We should do a Liberty fishing trip when I come back to Oklahoma. That sounds like fucking grand.
I'm way down with that.
All
Way
right,
down.
that's gonna happen.
What is your favorite movie?
Ooh, there's a documentary and it's called American Hardcore, and it's about the American hardcore punk rock movement here in the United States, and it is fantastic. It is
I'm gonna have to
awesome.
check that out.
Yes.
Who's your favorite content creator? I mean, aside from us, of course.
I would have to
Everyone
say
in the room, non-excluded. You can't vote for yourself.
what I have gotten the most out of is the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko. That dude has some really, really great guests on, and he talks about homesteading and permaculture and all these things that I do not even participate in, but I hope to one day, to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot out of that. And so obviously you guys are number one. He's number two.
Do you what is your favorite like TV show, Netflix show, Hulu show?
It is actually currently going on still, but it's called The Boys. It's on Prime Video.
Oh, I love The Boys. That's
If
pretty
you
good.
if you enjoy the show, read the paper, the actual comic books, the graphic novels, or if you've read the graphic novels, watch the show, because my God, so many times as a self-described nerd, I've been disappointed when shit made it to the big screen. Not with this. This was a wonderful adaptation. Very good.
Ooh.
Mike.
Oh, wait, it's my turn. Sorry, I was thinking about that one. I got distracted. What do you do to de-stress?
Cigar. This right here. And Paxton, you like cigars, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was supposed to be our first meeting, was going to a cigar lounge.
It was. Thanks, COVID. Fucking
Yeah, right.
asshole.
Goddamn.
This is called, I don't know if you can see it or not. It's called Feral. It's by Drew Estates. I'm a huge Liga Privada snob, and this was a limited edition roll they came out with, and it's delicious. But one of these and some nice music, some chill hop or something like that, just ambient noise. Just, I'm okay. That's how I chillax.
I actually scared the crap out of my significant other, because like one of my favorite things is listening to ambient noises, like forest noises. Specifically, I love listening to thunderstorms.
Nice.
And so I went to go do something in the other room, and my significant other came into the room and was sitting on the bed and decided to turn on the TV. Well, I still had my computer and everything running and had the YouTube channel up, and it had like the thunderstorm 10 hours playing on YouTube, and it was just thunder immediately at the loudest volume possible.
Oh my God.
It was a good time.
That's great.
Let's see. We asked about all that stuff. What is your we already asked about favorite like healthy snack, but what is your like guilty pleasure snack?
Oh
or
shit.
food in general? Or
Oh God. There's this place right across the street from my house and it's called Tony's Pizzeria and they make this gyro meat pizza. And I say gyro because I am an uncultured white dude.
Yeah.
But I'm,
You can just
oh
say
my
American.
God.
It's fine.
American. It is the best damn pizza in the world. And I'll get one of those and just, yeah.
We have a
What
place
exactly
here that
is
makes an
gyro
amazing
meat
Euro
pizza?
pizza.
It's Mediterranean canned meat. I'm confident in that. It
And
has
that's
to
good?
be. It's delicious. It's so good. It's so good. It's delicious.
Do
It
they
comes
do
on
the
this like
regular?
log.
Do they do regular
God.
like pizza sauce and stuff like that, or do they do
Yeah.
more of a Mediterranean style
No,
with it?
it's like envision a regular pepperoni pizza,
Oh.
but instead of pepperoni, it's just the pieces of the gyro meat, and holy shit, it is good.
See, we have a place here that actually makes Euro pizzas, but they use like more Mediterranean spice sauces and stuff like that on there.
I'm
I
not.
wonder what.
Oh no.
What, Greek yogurt and dill?
Yeah,
Like
That does
that
not
c-
sound great.
it's good. It's really good.
I don't even like olives on my pizza, let alone all that stuff. I just can't. No, that's not okay. It's your
Ugh.
turn, Mike.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Dogs. Yes, dogs.
All right,
Always dogs.
since you're in Oklahoma, I always love to ask this question: OU or
Uh-oh.
OSU?
I am not a sports
Trying
guy.
to start a fight.
I am not a sports guy, so that is a sorry.
No, you're
Here's
fine.
my-
Go ahead.
Uh,
That was my favorite thing interviewing Mr. Sadler the other night. We asked all of these questions, and the only one that we really saw him like stumble on was asking him the OU at OSU question.
He was like,
It's like, ah, crap.
He's got constituents,
I've
man.
got
Like
an
he's got
election
to
coming up, man. What are you doing to me?
screw him on the election on that one. That's funny.
Oh, jeez. He picked a neutral party to play it safe.
Yeah.
Mike.
Saved himself. I can't remember. Let's see. I know
I
we've got
think
a couple
that's
more
like
questions.
99% of them.
That's like 99% of the questions, I think. Yeah.
Can I ask y'all a question?
Yeah,
we
usually
always
do
let
that anyway.
people ask questions afterwards. So, like, yeah, we've asked you a bazillion questions. You get to ask us a question if you want.
What's y'all's favorite Star Wars movie?
Yeah, this is kind of like a cop-out movie or a cop-out answer, but the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series had a movie, and that's actually my favorite.
Okay.
I think that, oh shit, I've got them out of order now. The third
Wow.
one, the actual third one, not the chronological third one. That's Return of the Jedi, right?
Yes.
I'm talking the one where they fucking have the Force ghosts and shit.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be the fourth,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
No. I don't like any of the new ones.
Wasn't
They
it
all
reverse
suck.
6, 5, and 4?
All of the new ones suck. Oh yeah, 4,
No,
5.
you're
4,
thinking
5, and
backwards,
6.
bud.
Yeah.
4, 5, and
I'm
6.
thinking number 6.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi is probably my favorite one.
Okay.
Although, like, the first, I mean, like, 4, 5, and 6 are all really close to being my favorite ones. I just hate all of the new ones. Just all of them.
All right. What's y'all's favorite time of year?
Now,
Yeah, no. Just basic white girl
my
with it.
favorite holidays
Straight
are
up.
coming. I get pumpkin spice.
I get my Uggs out, get my pumpkin spice. It's a good time.
Hell yeah.
No, I just
I
love
just
this
hate the
season
heat.
so much, and it is my favorite holiday. My sister was born on Halloween, so it's like a double whammy.
Oh, I get to use a Luigi board for the first time ever, so that's gonna be fun.
Don't you bring no fucking shit like haunting up near
You
me
think that
if
shit-
you get fucking eaten.
You think it's real?
I warned you. Yeah, I
Okay.
told you not to fuck with that shit. That shit is gonna. That is
I'm-
not. That is a window you don't want to fucking open.
My significant other is a very staunch believer, and I'm very not. But like we both had interesting encounters. I think I told you about the one the other day about my grandmother and hearing her in the backyard. Did I tell you about that, Mike? Are you with us? You ignoring
Yeah.
me? Okay.
I was thinking. I was like
Okay.
trying to remember if I remembered. I was like,
That stoner memory, man. But yeah, so we decided for Halloween to go ahead and do the Luigi board, as I like to call it.
we
Try to
should
give that a
like
chance.
invite a bunch of people for a Halloween episode and tell like scary stories.
Yes.
And then I got my tax return.
Ah!
I think that's all the questions that we had on our end. Yeah. Well, thank you guys very much for watching and attending the show here. If you liked the video here today, definitely like and share. Check the coin tree and the is it Subscribe Star that we use? I think it's Subscribe Star.
Yes, subscribe.
Check
Star.
those out. Every dollar that we get goes directly back into the show. Right now,
And the community.
yeah, right now Mike and I are doing everything we do directly out of pocket. So literally any dollar that you can provide goes a very long way for us. We were freaking out the other day about $5. So everything helps us out.
We're like, oh my god, somebody gave us $5. We're so
Mhm.
excited.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, all that stuff is really great. If you can't provide any financial assistance, check just sharing us on Twitter and the various other social medias, telling your friends about us, or telling
Yes,
telling your
because
friends
we're
about
now
us.
officially redacted and banned from fucking Facebook. We're being censored by the man, y'all. We're being censored.
And if you can't, what maybe you're like me and you don't have any of the social medias, hop into either Discord, or if you are smart enough to go through Elements, do that. We actually have a little tutorial from
Matrix.
Mike. Um,
Yes, on our
and
page, there's a tutorial playlist even.
and volunteer some of your time, little things like helping us do some research or coming up with topics, or even just spitballing ideas, things like that. That goes a really long way for us as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, again, thank you guys very much for joining. Definitely check out the Clean Libertarian. What exactly is the
Definitely.
podcast called?
It's called the Clean Libertarian Podcast, and
Okay,
it's available on all the podcast catchers.
I listen
Fantastic.
to it on Spotify.
Right on.
And the same thing with your Twitter handle as well, right? Is it the Clean Libertarian, or is it just Clean Libertarian?
It's clean_podcast.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. But yeah, thank you very much for being on.
Yes,
We'd love
you'll
to do
have
this
come
again for
back
sure.
sometime.
I definitely
100%.
have to bring you to the Scar Lounge. It's a really chill place. It's a lot of fun.
We have to
A huge
invite you to
selection
the
there too.
Halloween episode too.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on,
but
guys.
Thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you tomorrow morning for the Mad Coffee time. Is that what we? Mad Coffee Break. That's what it was. Yeah, the Mad Coffee Break. We'll get that down eventually, even though it's our own show.
It's new, okay? Just bear with us, y'all.
So see us
Bear with us and bear arms.
See us Sunday for the Mad Coffee Break, and see us Monday for our next regular scheduled live stream. When can they catch your shows, Drew?
I pretty much do mine once a week, typically on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Fantastic.
I suck. I'm sorry.
So check in on Monday.
Content.
Check in on Monday-ish.
Yes. Yeah, that's typically the time that I've got it uploaded. And next one I'm doing is tomorrow with Greg Sadler. He's going to come on. And so, yeah.
He's a delight. I like
Will do.
him.
Yeah, he's great.
We both say hi.
He's great.
All right.
Until tomorrow, you guys be safe and y'all be free. This Mad LiberTEA time is adjourned.